We are considering two nominations, Hampton Dellinger to be the Special Counsel for the Office of Special Counsel, or OSC, and Henry Kerner to be a member of the Merit Systems Protection Board, or MSPB. Welcome to each of our nominees and to your friends and family members who are joining us here today. And thank you for your prior public service and your willingness to fill these two very important positions. OSC and the MSPB are both small, independent agencies that help build a more effective and accountable federal government. In particular, both are essential to protecting whistleblower rights. Federal employees must be able to report waste, fraud, and abuse all across government without the fear of reprisal. Whistleblowers have exposed serious safety shortfalls, wasteful spending, and corruption. They are indispensable to the oversight work of Congress and the Inspector General. The Special Counsel is the chief whistleblower advocate in the federal government and is responsible for safeguarding whistleblower rights. OSC investigates whistleblower disclosures and prosecutes instances of retaliation for vulnerable employees. In addition, OSC helps to ensure that the federal government is free from improper partisan political activity and protects our service members and veterans from employment discrimination. Mr. Dellinger, as you know, independence is critical to the success of the OSC, and I appreciate the commitments you have made to leading OSC in a nonpartisan manner if confirmed. And I look forward to learning more about your experience as well as your vision for this office. The Merit Systems Protection Board is an independent quasi-judicial agency dedicated to upholding the merit systems principles at the very heart of the federal civil service. The bipartisan three-member board evaluates cases of whistleblower retaliation and other violations of civil service laws. The board also conducts government-wide studies of important civil service issues and provides oversight of the Office of Personnel Management. Last year, the Senate confirmed 3 MSPB members. Before that, the board was left without a quorum for more than 5 years. These unprecedented vacancies led to an immense backlog of approximately 3,800 cases. I'm grateful for the hard work that the MSPB has done to resolve a significant portion of this backlog, providing long-awaited resolutions and relief for many federal employees. That said, there's still a whole lot of work to be done. Mr. Kerner, your confirmation would give the MSPB its full complement of board members and allow it to carry out these essential responsibilities. And I look forward to hearing more from you today about how you plan to approach this new role. Each of these nominees will help our federal government remain accountable, efficient, and effective. And I look forward to further discussing their plans for each position. It is the practice of this committee to swear in witnesses, so if each of you would please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony that you will give before this committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. You may be seated. Our first nominee, Hampton Dellinger, is most recently served in the Department of Justice from October 21 to June of 2023. As an Assistant Attorney General overseeing the Office of Legal Policy. During his tenure, OLP updated guidelines for the support of crime victims, contributed to the national strategy to combat human trafficking, and played a key role in implementing public safety policies such as the bipartisan Safer Communities Act. He has previously served in the North Carolina Department of Justice, the Office of North Carolina Governor, and in private practice. Dellinger holds a JD from Yale Law School, and I'm proud to note that he received his undergraduate degree from a really wonderful, great university, the University of Michigan. Mr. Dellinger, you're recognized for your opening statements.
Chairman Peters, Senator Hassan, Ranking Member Paul, and senators of this distinguished committee, thank you for considering my nomination to head the Office of Special Counsel, OSC. Each day, millions of federal employees interact, reach decisions, and take action. We are all indebted to these honorable civil servants, as so much of this workplace conduct is lawful, professional, and in the public interest. But each year, there are several thousand complaints made to the Office of Special Counsel about governmental conduct that is not appropriate. And we also owe thanks to everyone who blows the whistle on government misconduct, because they do so with great courage and, regrettably, too often find themselves at professional peril. But our gratitude is not enough. Federal government whistleblowers deserve and are legally entitled to robust protection from retaliation. Simply put, the branch of government that executes the law and enforces the law must obey the law, always. If confirmed, I will take every complaint made to OSC seriously, every single one. And my overriding goal will be to contribute to greater trust in government, including by protecting whistleblowers vigorously. To earn such trust, I promise to act independently, just as I have done throughout my 30-year legal career. In North Carolina, I sued the administration of a governor I admired and had previously worked for because I saw taxpayer funds being misused and wasted. At the United States Justice Department, I advocated for scientists and not lawyers to lead on forensic science issues. And I raised privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties as vital considerations in surveillance and other law enforcement operations. At OSC, independence to me would mean ensuring that all federal workers, no matter what they disclose or about who they challenge, receive the legal rights and protections they are guaranteed. If confirmed, I will work with my OSC colleagues to vindicate these rights and protections. We will do so independently, even-handedly, without regard to politics, and 100% consistent with the mission and mandate Congress has given the agency. I've worked with, advocated for, and provided trusted counsel to whistleblowers throughout my career. They were key to the Medicaid fraud cases I oversaw in the North Carolina Attorney General's office, to the False Claims Act case I filed on behalf of a key TAM plaintiff, and to lawsuits and investigations I've handled and led for years. I strongly agree we should have an annual designated Whistleblowers Day to acknowledge their inestimable contributions to government accountability and transparency. And if confirmed, I will make sure to ensure that federal government whistleblowers are respected and protected every day. OSC also enforces the Hatch Act, a law that demands nonpartisanship in executive branch activities. I know the Hatch Act well. I taught it as a law school instructor, and I followed it to the letter as a public official. I am prepared to enforce it vigorously and even-handedly. I also believe deeply in another core mission of OSC, ensuring that federal workers also serving in the military do not face job-related setbacks when returning from active duty or training. I made promises to the U.S. Senate when in 2021, you confirmed me to be an Assistant Attorney General, heading up the Office of Legal Policy. I kept my word. Senators asked me not to impose litmus tests on potential judicial nominations my office vetted. I didn't. I was urged to make sure that background investigations of nominees were thorough and surfaced every relevant issue. I did. I was told not to be a partisan. I wasn't. I'll end with my family. My late father, Walter, served in the executive branch in the 1990s. My late mother, Anne, also worked for the federal government. She was with the FBI in 1979 and 1980, and while there, she had the courage to call out gender discrimination she witnessed. I am proud of my mom's distinguished career, as well as my dad's, and I deeply admire the teaching and scholarship of my wife, Jolynn, a privacy expert at Duke Law School. Our son and our daughter are both first-year law students, and I hope they're studying for exams. I know the most valuable possession I can give them is the good name my parents left for me. As a lawyer, a husband, and a father, I can assure the committee that I will always adhere to my legal and ethical obligations and properly discharge my duties. If confirmed, I will view serving as special counsel as a high honor bestowed upon me only temporarily, and one that I must safeguard as a vital public trust. Thank you for your consideration. I want to thank Henry Kerner, who ably upheld that trust during his recently ended tenure as special counsel. Acting special counsel Karen Gorman is doing so as well. I'm indebted to and thank them both. I'm honored to be here, and welcome your questions.
Well, thank you. Our second nominee, Henry J. Kerner, as was mentioned, most recently served in the role that Mr. Dellinger is nominated to fill. So he served as a special counsel of the U.S. Office of Special Counsel and served in that role from October of 2017 to October of 2023. During that time, he helped increase OSC's responsiveness to whistleblower complaints and restructured the office's programmatic units to improve efficiency. Mr. Kerner has a long career of public service, including as a prosecutor in Compton, California, and a staff member for the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. He holds a JD from the Harvard Law School. Mr. Kerner, welcome to the committee, and you are now recognized for your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Peters, Ranking Member Paul, Senator Hassan, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you for the honor to appear before you today and for the privilege of your consideration of my nomination. I'm honored that Minority Leader McConnell recommended me and President Biden nominated me for the position of member of the Merit Systems Protection Board, which protects the employment rights of federal employees and safeguards the merit system that is foundational to our nonpartisan career civil service. I'd like to start by extending my gratitude to my family in California, my parents Mark and Larissa, who are watching online. They've been incredibly supportive, and I appreciate their continued engagement. I'm also grateful to the late Senator John McCain, who gave me the opportunity to serve as a staff director on this committee's permanent subcommittee on investigations during the 113th Congress. Finally, I want to thank the staff of OSC, some of whom are here today, with whom I've worked over the past 6 years. My former colleagues at OSC are incredibly hardworking, knowledgeable, and dedicated to the agency's mission. Together, we had to overcome many obstacles, from the COVID pandemic to addressing the agency's backlog, to an extended government shutdown, to 2 Supreme Court cases that challenged OSC's independence. I'm so proud of how everyone not only persevered, but excelled in the face of these myriad external challenges over my term as special counsel. 6 years ago, I sat before this committee to lay out my vision for OSC as the nominee for special counsel. I'd like to briefly recap some of those goals and see what we were able to accomplish during my tenure. First, I wanted to build on the excellent work of my predecessor, now Judge Carolyn Lerner. We achieved record numbers of what we call favorable actions, which include corrective action for complainants and disciplinary action against agency officials found to have engaged in misconduct. For example, in FY 2022, OSC achieved a record 417 favorable actions, nearly 20% above the average over the previous 5 fiscal years. In 2021, OSC was recognized as the second highest ranked best places to work out of 29 small federal agencies by the Partnership for Public Service and Boston Consulting Group. We finished in the top 3 again in 2022 and this year. Second, I said I wanted to implement information technology system upgrades to prioritize caseload efficiency. In 2018, OSC successfully launched our new internal case management system, ECMS, which is considerably more user-friendly than its predecessor, OSC 2000, was. 6 years ago, I also highlighted my goal of addressing how to optimize the intake of cases to provide appropriate response times to whistleblowers. When I first arrived at OSC, I assembled an efficiency and effectiveness working group, which studied OSC's processes and found that OSC could perform more efficiently by improving intra-agency collaboration and communication. Under the resulting reorganization, OSC streamlined its procedures for prohibited personnel practice, PPP complaints, by combining units with overlapping responsibilities and creating one unit to handle all PPP complaints that meet threshold jurisdictional requirements. Fourth, I wanted to increase education and outreach with agency and congressional staff, especially with regard to the Hatch Act and whistleblower rights. It is critical that OSC work with agencies to ensure they receive robust training to prevent violations before they can occur. During my tenure, we dramatically increased training of the federal community, conducting approximately 150 outreach events per year. With regard to the Hatch Act, I'm very proud of OSC's record of even-handed enforcement. A special counsel's term is 5 years, including a potential 1-year holdover, and intended to overlap presidential administrations. This statutory scheme relies on the special counsel's independence, unbeholden to political influence, and free from partisan bias. I relied heavily on the recommendations from OSC's experienced career Hatch Act unit staff, and we enforced the Hatch Act evenly against members from both administrations. In summary, I'm proud of our achievements over the past 6 years, and I'm confident that OSC will continue to be a model federal agency in the future. I now look forward to a new challenge as a board member at the MSPB in the event I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed. The mission of the MSPB is to protect the federal merit system principles, which will uphold the value of fairness, equal opportunity, and non-discrimination within our civil service. If confirmed, I look forward to the opportunity to work closely with the two other members, Acting Chair Kathy Harris and Ray Limon, to protect the employment rights of federal employees and to work down the inherited inventory of cases from the years without a quorum. I also wanted to say thank you to Mr. Dellinger for his kind words in his opener. And of course, should he be confirmed, I wish him nothing but the best and stand ready to assist in any way. Thank you for listening to me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for that. There are three questions that this committee asks of every nominee, and I'm going to ask you both to respond just briefly with a yes or no. Mr. Kerner, we'll start with you, and then Mr. Ellinger for the three questions. First, is there anything that you are aware of in your background that might present a conflict of interest with the duties of the office to which you have been nominated?
No.
No.
Second, do you know of anything personal or otherwise that would in any way prevent you from fulfilling and honorably discharging the responsibilities of the office for which you have been nominated?
No.
No.
Lastly, do you agree without reservation to comply with any request or summons to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you are confirmed?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Mr. Dellinger, the Office of Special Counsel has around 140 employees, but it's responsible for protecting the whistleblower rights of all 2.1 million employees all across the federal government. So my question for you, sir, is if confirmed, how will you ensure that every federal employee has confidence in OSC's independence and commitment to protect whistleblowers?
Thank you, Senator. The first thing I want to recognize is the fine work that OSC has been doing under former Special Counsel Kerner. He and Judge Lerner really helped, I think, to elevate the confidence that federal workers can have in OSC. I think Congress has confidence in OSC, and OSC has been doing a great job, it looks like, at prioritizing the cases that it will focus on and being really efficient and really effective with the cases before it. So my first order of business is to not disrupt the great work that's being done today, including under Acting Special Counsel Gorman. And that will be my focus. I've worked with whistleblowers throughout my career. I've been a litigator throughout my career. I've been an investigator throughout my career. So those are the core functions of OSC: to investigate, to litigate, to advocate. And it's something I have a lot of experience with, and I would very much look to be a meaningful member of the team.
Mr. Kerner, the MSPB and the OSC both serve important functions when it comes to upholding whistleblower rights and preventing prohibited personnel practices. However, the role of an individual MSPB member is quite different from that of the special counsel role. So my question for you, sir, is if confirmed, how will you approach the transition from leading an office focused on investigating and prosecuting cases to serving as an impartial adjudicator?
Absolutely. The roles are quite different. Not only is the special counsel, of course, investigating these practices, but also the special counsel stands alone, stands as a single decision maker, a single director. So the transition to going to the board will require a different skill set, both in terms of a different role, which is now adjudicating cases. It's a more judicial role, but also working in a board, working with two other members and having that kind of give and take that is required in order to come to hopefully consensus or working on the decisions. I think one thing that's really prepared me at OSC very well for this role is I've always had a very robust discussion, an open discussion process, and people were able to express their views freely. And so I've kind of been a little bit in a judicial role already because I would get opinions from various people and then had to make a call based on that. And so I think that training I will bring with me when that same thing happens in adjudicating cases, obviously a little bit more on the judicial side at that point.
Mr. Dellinger, one of OSC's lesser known but I think incredibly important responsibilities is enforcing the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act, or USERRA. This law ensures that military service members and veterans don't face discrimination when they're seeking return to civilian employment. Could you briefly describe how you will prioritize USERRA enforcement if you are confirmed for this position?
Absolutely, Senator. And I'm proud of my ties to Michigan, but I'm a Tar Heel. Grew up in North Carolina, and North Carolina prides itself on being America's most military-friendly state. So for decades, my friends, co-workers have been in the military, active duty, reserves, and I've seen them leave the civilian workforce and then come back. And I strongly believe in USERRA, in the protections that Congress has established for members of the federal civilian workforce, to allow them to serve our country, to respect the fact that they have put their lives on the line for America, but then to return with no detriment to their civilian prospects. So I believe there's a sensitivity within federal agencies to the rights that federal employees have when they go on active duty or training. But when issues arise, it's up to the Office of Special Counsel to protect our federal workers who are in the military. And I'm fully committed to making sure that all the necessary resources are available, if confirmed, to vindicate the rights of every single member of the federal civilian workforce who also does double duty on behalf of America in the military.
Ensuring that employees and managers fully understand their rights and their responsibilities, I think it can be argued will help prevent whistleblower retaliation and other prohibited personnel practices before they occur, which is the ultimate goal. Mr. Kerner, are there any outreach or training efforts that you found to be particularly effective during your tenure at the OSC? And if so, or if not, are there lessons that you have learned that you're going to be able to apply to the MSPB?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The outreach at OSC was very, very important. We did about 150, give or take, in the different year. I know the Hatch Act unit goes and has meetings. I think most effective, since you asked about effectiveness, are meetings that are in person, that allow for engagement. And we did a lot of those. I noticed that MSPB also did a lot of outreach. They've done about 112 meetings, so I think we're quite aligned with them on that. As you say, it is crucially important to teach supervisors and also managers about non-retaliation. And so I think just building on the good work and having a very robust outreach function. OSC has 3 dedicated people to doing that, plus a lot of the line lawyers also go out and do a lot of the teaching. So I think just having an emphasis from the top about the importance of outreach, advocacy, and training is really important.
Well, apart from the agency's adjudication functions, MSPB responsibilities include conducting nonpartisan studies on the federal workforce that can inform policymakers and other government decisions. So, Mr. Kerner, if confirmed, how would you use your role on the board to shape the strategy for these federal workforce studies and the specific topics that they assess related to the health of the federal service?
So MSPB has a plan, actually. So they have an office, I think it's called OPE, that conducts these studies. That office has laid out a plan. It's from 22 to 26. They had about 40 studies that they suggested, looking at 6 different areas. Their proposals go to the board, so the board already approved a lot of them and prioritized a number of them. So by the time I get there, there's already a plan in place. Obviously, the last couple of studies were on sexual harassment in the workforce and on perceptions of prohibited personnel practices. So they're very timely and very important themes. They have, as I said, they have about 40 that they've already prepared, and the board has voted on to prioritize. But obviously, once I come in, I'm happy to contribute my thoughts on this topic as well.
Well, you mentioned some of the future. Do you anticipate conducting studies on the federal government's recruitment, retention, and training practices and how they can be improved? Is that something you would be interested in focusing on?
Yes, and I believe those are already on the approved list from the 22 to 26 time period.
And those are ones that you will focus on?
I think mine would be a recommendation, but I certainly think those should be considered, yes.
Great, good, thank you. Senator Carper, you're recognized for your questions.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and welcome. Nice to see both of you. Congratulations on your nominations, and thank you for distinguished careers in the service to the people of this country. As lifelong public servants, you know better than most that our workforce is one of the most important assets, I think maybe the most important asset that we have in the federal government. And the role of special counsel and the Merit System Protection Board is, as you know, critical to safeguarding the integrity of our civil service, protecting whistleblowers and ensuring that all federal employees have a safe and a fair place to work. I'm going to start off with a question, if I could, Mr. Dellinger, for you on the importance of customer service, something I've been interested in forever, customer service. But during your nomination, you've mentioned the importance of improving customer service, something I applaud, and developing a culture at the Office of Special Counsel that makes your resources accessible and available to those who need them. I applaud your commitment. During the Thanksgiving holidays, my wife and I went on a 5-state road trip, and it took us back through my native West Virginia. And we almost drove right by in Beckley, West Virginia, on Harper Road, where Patton's Market used to exist, and was in business for about 30 years or more, owned by my aunt and uncle. The butcher, their butcher was my grandfather. And when you walked into that store, it had a sign that said, "Welcome to Patton's Market, friendliest store in Beckley." And my wife and I visited one of my cousins whose father owned that store, and they found at their home in their garage that sign that used to say, "Welcome to Patton's Market, friendliest store in Beckley." So I'm a big believer in that. As a kid who used to work there a long, long time ago, big believer in customer service. But I believe in improving customer service and making government more accessible to the people that we serve, whether it's expanding access to taxpayers' services, which we deal with on another committee I serve on, the Finance Committee, or improving services at our Division of Motor Vehicles and inspection lanes and all. Our constituents need to know that our government is responsive to them and their needs. And I think the Office of Special Counsel is no different. And while your customers may be whistleblowers or civil service employees, your office has a responsibility to intake complaints efficiently and effectively. My question is, Mr. Dellinger, what would a customer service-oriented culture at the Office of Special Counsel look like to you? And could you just explain for us why customer service is critical in your point of view, and why is it critical to fulfilling the Special Counsel's mission?
Thank you, Senator, for the question and for being here. My first job was delivering newspapers. I always took it to the door. Then I bagged groceries. I would take it to the car. It's something customers.
Sounds familiar.
Yes, customer service is something I grew up with. And particularly as a litigator, you have clients, witnesses, who are facing maybe the most difficult moment of their professional careers when they're in high-stakes litigation. And you have millions of federal workers, but every year you have a couple thousand who see wrongdoing, who see misconduct, and who don't look away. They stand up and say something. And to my mind, every single one of those cases has to be taken seriously, empathetically. You have to look at the facts and follow the facts in the law. And it's difficult with the small agency, a couple hundred, 120, 130, 140 members of OSC trying to look out for 2.1 million federal workers. But the way to do it is to not think about the overall statistics, think about each person as an individual. And as I said in my opening statement, I am committed to taking every single complaint filed with OSC seriously and personally.
Let me, in addition to that, what steps, other steps come to mind that you take to make the Office of Special Counsel and its resources as accessible as possible to any and all who need them? And are there any specific areas of improvement or policies that you're looking to implement?
Well, I would want to, if confirmed, consult with my new colleagues. I certainly admire the work that former Special Counsel Kerner did, along with his colleagues, in reducing the backlog. Obviously, having a quorum at the Merit Systems Protection Board has helped, but there are still thousands of cases pending at the Protection Board. There are a number of cases OSC is still working on, and so I'm committed to being a hard-working part of the team. I'll take on any task to get the job done, and I'm committed to making sure and advocating for OSC having the resources it needs to get the job done that Congress has intended.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kerner, please welcome. Good to see you. As you know, the Merit Systems Protection Board, you know better than most of us, went nearly 5 years without a quorum, significantly hampering its ability to function and to process cases, and during this time, the backlog grew to an unprecedented level. I'm told of more than 3,500 cases, which is a lot of cases. Justice delayed is justice denied. We need a functioning and effective board to safeguard the civil service and protect our federal employees. In your testimony, I believe you mentioned your commitment to working with your fellow board members to address this backlog. Good for you. Mr. Kerner, as a special counsel, you testified that you modernized the office's case intake system and improve responsiveness and favorable actions on behalf of complainants. Question, can you share with us what strategies you found were most effective as special counsel in improving the office's abilities to be responsive and effective? What lessons did you learn during your tenure?
Thank you, Senator Carper. It's nice to see you again as well. I also delivered newspapers when I was a kid.
Anybody in the room who did not deliver news or bag groceries? We did all the above.
I think the most effective ways that we improved customer service at OSC and also our efficiency was through, as you say, getting through the backlog, being more efficient. We combined some units that had some internal lags, so we eliminated that. So what happened is now when you file with OSC, you get someone assigned, typically a lawyer or occasionally an investigator, within 48 hours. That person is assigned for the duration of the case. So there's no, handing over cases, which delays people having information about the cases. We learned that having more efficiency that way is really helpful. We reduced the backlog by almost 1,000 cases at OSC. I have to give credit to the current board members, Kathy Harris and Ray Limon. They've reduced the backlog from, as you say, almost 3,800 cases to about 1,900, so about half in a year and a half. So hopefully if I'm lucky to be confirmed, I would get in there and help out with that task too, because as you say, justice delayed is justice denied a lot of times.
Thank you. And just in closing, my time's expired. When I used to be governor, when I got to be governor, we're considering changing the state motto. It had been, I think it had been like first state, we're the first state to ratify the Constitution. So you come across the border into Delaware and they say, welcome to Delaware, first state to start a nation. Pretty good motto. Another governor, I think it was Governor Pete DuPont, changed that to the small wonder, welcome to Delaware, small wonder, which is a pretty good one as well. And I toyed with the ideas of new governor, changing it even further to say, welcome to Delaware, the friendly, but you'll get used to it. There you go. With that, I'm going to relinquish my time. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your service. Thanks to see you.
Thank you, Senator Carper. Senator Hawley, you're recognized for your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees. Thanks for being here. Mr. Kerner, let me start with you. Almost 2 years ago this month, I wrote a letter to the GSA about the Goodfellow Federal Center in St. Louis, Missouri. This was, you might remember, a center where workers had been exposed and children had been exposed in the child care facility to widespread contaminants, including asbestos, lead, mercury, arsenic, and explosive materials, just for good measure. And I wrote this based in large part on your report to President Biden, which claimed that whistleblowers had reached out to your office regarding this issue. I'm pleased to say that since that debacle, the Goodfellow Center has been closed, that its employees have been moved to a safe location in downtown St. Louis. And I bring this up just to say that I appreciate your vigilant work on this because of the work that you did and because of your protection for whistleblowers. We were able to get some relief, much needed relief for the people of my state. So let me just ask you this. If confirmed, what role, if any, would you see yourself playing in continuing to protect whistleblowers who might speak out to federal officials and expose important instances of corruption and abuse like that one?
Thank you very much, Senator. On the board, it's really important that we obviously have an adjudicatory function, so it's a little bit different, but making sure that there's no retaliation, either within MSPB itself, but also making sure that there's B8, B9 cases that are brought, and that those are adjudicated correctly, and that whistleblowers are protected and don't face retaliation. And I think it's from a judicial standpoint as opposed to from an investigatory standpoint that I would contribute at that point.
Yeah, very good. Just in terms of making sure that the whistleblowers don't face retaliation, particularly at MSPB, I mean, what steps do you envision taking to see that that's the case?
So one of the most important steps is you have to communicate that. I know Chair Harris has already done that. I'm aware she's had a yearly speech where she tells managers not to do that. It's also in managers' performance plans. So they get evaluated based on non-retaliation. I, from my own experience, of course, bring a special sensitivity to that because that's what I've been doing the last 6 years. And I also believe in what I call the challenge process. And that's basically allowing people to have a wide swath of opinions that I listen to, and everyone's welcome to express those, and there's no retaliation permitted.
Very good. Thank you for your service on this. Mr. Dellinger, you were at the Office of Legal Policy for how long?
Approximately 2 years.
Yeah, I think I saw you in the Judiciary Committee before you took that job. Are you familiar with this case, Missouri versus Biden?
Not in detail. That was handled, the civil appellate, the Office of Solicitor General would focus on the litigation for the department.
But are you aware of the case and its significance? I mean, do you know what it's about? Do you know anything about it?
I'd be happy to respond to any specific question you have.
Well, I'm surprised that you haven't at least heard of it. I mean, are you aware of the basics of the case?
I would ask that you remind me.
Missouri versus Biden is a case brought by my state against the Biden administration and various agencies of the government, including those who you had some portion overseeing, the Department of Justice, for their coordination with social media companies in censoring American speech. Is this ringing any bells yet?
It does.
Okay, good. Oh, I would certainly hope so. It is, to my knowledge, the first time that a series of federal courts, Federal District Court, Federal Court of Appeals, found that the White House directed the censorship of American speech and directly violated the First Amendment. Now, the court found, among other things, and there are voluminous trial findings here that were then affirmed on appeal in the Fifth Circuit, found that the White House directed these social media companies to take down posts that they didn't like, directed the social media companies to change or alter their censorship practices, that the FBI, that CISA, that the CDC, and a variety of other federal agencies regularly met with these social media companies and coerced them into carrying out the administration's censorship agenda. And that included people in my state who were censored. We had parents, according to the court's findings, parents in my state, in the greater St. Louis area, who had posts about school board meetings that were removed by Facebook. School board meetings that were removed at the direction of the White House and the FBI. I mean, this is really extraordinary. These companies, I should just say, already have too much power. These companies are, in my view, a scourge in this country. But to have the federal government use the companies as their instrumentality to censor American speech is unbelievable. Were you aware of this happening while you were at the Justice Department?
I was not involved in litigation on behalf of the Justice Department.
Were you aware of the actions happening? Were you aware that the White House, the Justice Department, the FBI, CISA, the CDC were meeting with social media companies?
I was not.
What would you advise the White House to do in the wake of this ruling?
Well, I think all Americans and all parties to litigation have to comply with court orders. I know the Justice Department has a litigation process where the Civil Appellate Division, the Office of the Solicitor General handles litigation on behalf of the department. There certainly has been a lot of litigation involving states, including yours. And so, one, you follow the order of the court, and you follow the process on appeal.
But do you think that this is a problem? I mean, do you think it's a problem that the White House, the FBI, the CDC, CISA has been found by multiple federal courts now to have violated the First Amendment with respect to the speech of individual Americans? I mean, does that strike you as problematic?
I certainly believe that everyone needs to follow court orders. So if there's been a court finding and a court directive, then all Americans, including the federal government, need to adhere to the court directive.
Well, do you think it's appropriate for the White House and other members of the federal government to meet with social media company executives and officials and try to coerce them to carry out the speech agenda of the White House? Do you think that's appropriate?
Well, I think what's appropriate is that every federal employee follow the law, respect and honor the First Amendment, don't engage in improper censorship. So to that extent, I agree with you that conduct has to be lawful and constitutional.
Were you consulted at any time in the last 2 years about meetings with social media companies, interfacing with social media companies, policy towards social media companies in any way?
Well, my office did play a coordinating role to combat human trafficking. And so I'm not aware of any specific meetings, but I know we were one aspect of combating human trafficking.
What about combating so-called misinformation, disinformation, malinformation?
Right. I was not involved in that.
And the Office of Legal Policy has given no advice on that at any time, to the White House, to the Attorney General, to the DAG?
No. Again, you've got the Civil Appellate, Office Solicitor General, Office Legal Counsel. That type of issue might have fallen in one of those bailiwicks.
So your testimony to this committee is you were completely outside of the loop on this at all times. You knew nothing about it. You didn't play any role in it. Your office didn't play any role in any of these meetings with social media companies, and you were not consulted about it at any time.
That's correct.
Okay.
Again, other than on efforts to combat human trafficking.
And did that involve any requests to change the moderation policies, so-called, of any of these companies, to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, Senator.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my time has expired. I just want to note again for the record, and the reason I raise this with you, Mr. Dellinger, is you were in a very senior leadership position at the Department of Justice. And this is very serious. It is very serious when the American people can't go online and post about a school board meeting and not have the White House censor their speech. I mean, we're not going to have a democracy if you cannot speak in this country. And it wasn't one issue. I advise you to read the case. It was COVID, it was elections, it was school boards, it was the Hunter Biden laptop story, it was everything. It was anything that the White House did not like, that it would label disinformation, malinformation, who knows what. Anything they didn't like, they would go to these companies, and the companies remarkably just complied. Of course, they coerced them to do it, but I'm sure the companies actually enjoy doing it because they enjoy the power. The problem is the only people who don't have power in this scenario are the American people. They're the ones who get screwed in this. And I can just tell you, if we can't have free speech in this country, we can't have free elections in this country, and we don't have a democracy. And the fact that you were in a leadership position at the Department of Justice while this is going on gives me serious, serious pause. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. One last question before we start wrapping this up, and it's going to be to both of you gentlemen. You both have extensive experience working directly with whistleblowers throughout your entire career. So my question for you is, are there additional steps that you think that agencies or Congress can take to strengthen whistleblower protections and create a more open, more non-retaliatory culture all across the government? Are there any things that come to mind that would be helpful for us to consider, particularly as this committee attempts to constantly strengthen the protections for whistleblowers? Mr. Kerner, we'll start with you, and then the last word will go to you, Mr. Dellinger.
Yes, I think the most important thing in terms of strengthening whistleblower protections is a consensus, the bipartisan consensus. And so to the extent that the Congress, the Senate, this committee can find it to collaborate and to agree amongst yourselves on the importance of protecting whistleblowers, because sometimes whistleblowers disclose things that may be inconvenient to one party or the other in power. But if we don't support them in general and in principle, then it just becomes another political football. And so I think that's the important thing, and that then trickles down to agency leadership, holding the secretaries, the cabinet secretaries, the leaders of agencies accountable for ensuring that whistleblowers are protected. One of the things I did when I was there, I went and met with a lot of leaders. I met with 3 VA secretaries, the current one and the 2 prior predecessors, in terms of respecting whistleblowers and the culture. VA is one, as I like to call it, our #1 customer. And so they obviously have a lot of whistleblowers, and protecting those whistleblowers and making sure 2 things. One, that they take seriously what the whistleblower reports and make sure that they follow up. And 2, that they do not punish them, that it's not a career ender. Those are the 2 things that have to be brought to the attention of the leadership. And when you have that culture and a bipartisan consensus supporting whistleblowers, I think that's the most important thing to protect them.
I agree with all that, Senator, and I would just say briefly that I think it's important for managers to understand the standard for whistleblower protection, which is if a whistleblower has a reasonable belief that she or he has seen a violation of law, an abuse of authority, gross mismanagement, or gross misuse of taxpayer funds, that's the standard for whistleblower protection. And so making sure that that is well and widely understood is vital. And then I think second and last, I would say for managers in the executive branch to see cooperation between OSC and the Congress is vital. And I commit to be a full partner to support the Congress and its protection of whistleblowers, and would look forward, if confirmed, to working with you, with this committee, and with your staff.
Very good. Well, I would like to thank both of our nominees for joining us today, and for your willingness to serve in these very important positions. The nominees have filed responses to biographical and financial questionnaires. Without objection, this information will be made part of the hearing record, with the exception of the financial data, which is on file and available for public inspection in the committee offices. The hearing record will remain open until 12 p.m. tomorrow, December 1st, for the submission of statements and questions for the record. This hearing is now adjourned.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this week's Team Kentucky Update. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving last week. We're kicking off today's Team Kentucky Update the way we often do, with great news on the economic development front. Since the beginning of my administration, we've now announced more than 910 private sector new location and expansion projects that total approximately $28 billion in private sector investments, a record under any governor, and now over 49,500 new jobs created. One way that we're keeping our red hot economic momentum going is by being proactive and intentional in developing build-ready sites across the Commonwealth. Today, I have some exciting news on that front. The John Will Stacy MMRC Regional Industrial Park, located in Moorhead, adds to the state's growing list of properties certified as build-ready by the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. Speed to market is so important, and these sites are available statewide for companies looking to locate in the Commonwealth, start construction, and get into operations as quickly as possible. The site includes a 150,000 square foot graded building pad on 22.4 acres, and the MMRC Regional Industrial Park has over 280 acres available for development. The industrial park is less than 1.5 miles from Interstate I-64 and about 65 miles east of the Bluegrass Airport in Lexington. The Build Ready program has continued to grow over the last several years. It seems like just about every time we certify one of these sites, it's only a matter of months before we have an announcement of a new tenant and more jobs that are on the way. So I'm excited to see this momentum come to and continue in Moorhead. The work we're doing right now is paving the way for companies to choose the Commonwealth as a home for their business, bringing with them quality jobs and opportunities for communities across the state. I also want to congratulate Mitsubishi Electric US Inc. on the approval of a $50 million award from the U.S. Department of Energy to support plans to establish a factory here in the Commonwealth to make high-efficiency variable capacity compressors for the all-climate heat pumps. This announcement is incredible news for Mitsubishi Electric US and for the Commonwealth as we work with the company's leadership to find the right home for this project in Kentucky. The award comes as part of the President's Investing in America program, and my understanding is this is the first of its kind that this federal cabinet has never invested in electric heat pumps before, and the first time they're doing so is here in Kentucky. Finally, on Tuesday, I joined leaders at DHL to get a firsthand look at the company's investments they've made really over the past 10 years, almost $500 million of investments and expansions. They have in the Commonwealth about 3,800 full-time jobs for Kentuckians, and just in July announced a new $192 million project creating a maintenance facility and new gates at CVG Airport in northern Kentucky. DHL is a global leader in mail delivery and logistics. Since 1983, the company's invested hundreds of millions of dollars here in the Commonwealth. Just in the past decade, DHL has made 6 major announcements totaling more than $470 million. This is a great employer, a great partner in northern Kentucky in terms of what they do. This is one of Europe and the world's largest companies, and their most significant operation in the United States is in northern Kentucky. They also help the Commonwealth, paving the way for the Amazon facility that's up there, which they allowed to use the DHL facility during the day while they operated at night, while Amazon constructed their own facility in northern Kentucky. This is a really large employer. Needed to see and meet and talk with them firsthand. The tour is pretty incredible about what's going on, and it continues to show the revitalization and the recreation of that airport into now just an economic development leader for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I'll now turn it over to our First Lady for some updates on the upcoming inauguration, and then be back with a few other pieces.
Good afternoon. Andy and I are excited and thankful to be preparing for the upcoming inauguration on Tuesday, December 12th, here in Frankfort. The 60-second gubernatorial inauguration theme is Forward Together. This theme is really important to Andy and me, as we want to pay tribute to how Kentuckians have come together and gotten through so many hard times over the past 4 years, and how together we have moved forward to arrive where we are today as we build a bright future. Kentuckians have met every challenge with love, compassion, and empathy for one another, and that is exactly how we must approach the next 4 years. So today, we are happy to make more inauguration-related announcements. First, I am pleased to officially announce some of the members of the Forward Together Inauguration Committee. These are some really, really special people who are helping lead the way with efforts to unify Kentuckians from every corner of the state. Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Secretary Jim Gray is chair of the inauguration. Mitchell Denham and Nicole Yates are co-chairs. Our honorary co-chairs are Rodkey and Leah Atkins, J. Michael and Joan Brown, the late Tommy Elliott and Marianne Elliott, John and Heather McConnell, and Jonathan and Kelly Rabinowitz. We are so excited to have them serve in this special way. The first inauguration event on December 12th will be at breakfast reception taking place at 8:30 a.m. at the Thomas D. Clark Center for Kentucky History. The breakfast reception is hosted by the citizens of Frankfort and Franklin County with music by the Kentucky State University Faculty Student Jazz Collective and other artists. Food is provided by Kentucky State Parks along with 3 local bakeries. At 9:30 a.m., we will hold the inaugural worship service at First Christian Church. This will be an opportunity for Kentuckians to come together with faith leaders from different traditions across the Commonwealth and lift one another up as we prepare to continue moving forward together. Seating is limited, but the event will be streamlined online on First Christian Church's Facebook and YouTube pages. For those in Frankfort, the Frankfort Plant Board will also carry the service on channels 10 and 510. At 11 a.m., the inaugural parade will start at Capitol Avenue at the end of the Main Street Bridge. We are very proud to announce the Grand Marshals of the parade, healthcare workers who guided Kentuckians through the global pandemic and natural disasters, and public school educators who continue to lead Kentucky's children into the future. The parade will tell the story of Andy's first term in office, governing through a time of unprecedented adversity, capitalizing on game-changing economic opportunities, and moving Kentuckians forward together. The parade will feature individuals and groups that played a major role in the story of the last 4 years, looking back at both our struggles and our successes before giving way to the young people who will bring Kentucky into the bright future we have ahead of us. We can't wait to see the smiling faces of so many Kentuckians at the parade, but if you can't make it in person, it will also be broadcast on KET and streamed on the KET website. Following the parade, we will have the inaugural prelude on the Capitol steps at 1:30 p.m. Kentuckians can also watch the prelude on KET, which will feature music from our talented artists from across Kentucky, including the 202nd Army Band of the Kentucky National Guard and the Kentucky State University Concert Choir. At 2 p.m., we will have the swearing-in ceremony at the Capitol, which will also be broadcast on KET, where Andy and Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman will officially be sworn in to serve Kentucky families for 4 more years. Seating is available for the public, and visitors may line up along the Capitol's front steps to watch the ceremony. Andy's senior advisor, Rocky Adkins, will preside over this ceremony, which will feature a musical performance by Tyler Childers and a reading by Kentucky Poet Laureate Silas House. Following the swearing-in, we will have the Grand March in the Capitol Rotunda at 6 p.m., which will also be on KET. The evening will conclude with the inaugural ball at 7 p.m., which, due to overwhelming interest, is a ticketed event. We are really looking forward to all of these Inauguration Day festivities. I also want to remind Kentucky kids about our inauguration poster contest. For us, it's important that Kentucky kids lend their talents to the inauguration celebration. What better way to do that than through art? School-aged children from across the Commonwealth are invited to send us their poster artwork depicting what they think Kentuckians can accomplish in the future by continuing to work together. The 5 winners and their families, along with representatives from their schools, will be invited to the Capitol on December 12th, where we will recognize them as part of the inaugural celebration. The winning work will also be framed and on display in the Capitol during this time. For more information about the poster contest and all inauguration events, visit the inauguration website on the screen, kentucky.gov/inauguration. This is a really special time for Kentucky. December 12th will be a great day for our Commonwealth. Cannot wait to share it with everyone. Thanks.
All right, next, an update on the Cavis rollout. The new year will bring a new system to modernize and improve car and boat services. The final phase of Cavis, which stands for the Kentucky Automated Vehicle Information System, will roll out in January to fully replace the current outdated system called Avis. The change of systems means many common vehicle services will be temporarily unavailable as they switch systems. This will mainly affect anyone who plans to sell, buy, or renew a vehicle in Kentucky in January. Starting Monday, January 1, your local county clerk's office will not be able to process vehicle and boat registrations, transfer titles, or issue license plate and disabled placards. Online vehicle registration renewal will also be down. The good news is the following week, batches of county clerks will resume services each day. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet expects the entire state to be back up and running by the end of that week. In January, you can check with your county clerk to see when they plan to resume services, since it will vary by county. It is important to know this system change will not impact the issuance of driver's licenses at the driver's licensing regional offices. Users of the system will enjoy several efficiency improvements once it is in place to serve Kentuckians better, and we're thankful for the input of the clerks on how we've modernized this system. One benefit Kentuckians can look forward to as a result of the change is that they can choose from more than 20 new specialty license plate designs that promote some of their favorite Kentucky nonprofits. More information is available at drive.ky.gov. Now an update on disaster recovery housing. At first light after the tornadoes in western Kentucky and in the floods of eastern Kentucky, I was there, making the promise that we would rebuild every home and every life. It's a promise that we continue to keep. Today, I have another update on new housing as we help these families get the fresh start they deserve. In the West, we are quickly approaching the 2-year anniversary of the devastating tornadoes. While there's still a long road to recovery, I'm proud of the work of so many people, local officials, nonprofits, and we have come a long way. Some of the most special moments I've had as governor is handing keys over to families that had been displaced, watching kids run in and pick out their rooms, watching the community and partners come together to stock the fridge on day one or provide the different equipment and supplies that we may take for granted. But if you've lost everything you need in your new home. Many of these home building projects are possible thanks to the generosity of donors to the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. That fund raised more than $52.3 million to help survivors with immediate and long-term needs. $21.6 million of that has been committed to the construction or significant repair of 300 homes. I want to thank our nonprofit building partners for their tireless work on these projects. Homes and Hope for Kentucky, Habitat for Humanity, the Mayfield Graves Fuller Center for Housing, the Fuller Center Disaster Rebuilders, the Hope Initiative, and the Mayfield Graves Long-Term Recovery Group. With this funding, construction is completed or underway in 9 counties, with 63 homes in Graves County, 55 in Hopkins County, 13 in Warren County, 11 in Ohio County, 4 in Caldwell, 4 in Fulton, 2 in Christian, and 1 in Hickman, and 1 in Marshall. That is 154 homes, halfway to our goal of 300, and the work continues. The exciting part is the pace continues to pick up. In the West, we've gone from rebuilding a home to building new neighborhoods. And every time one nonprofit has reached their limit, another one jumps in. Really exciting to see how both Dawson Springs and Mayfield will be some of the newest towns in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Exciting to see how the housing is being built to be able to withstand even what they went through. It's a lot of incredible people working really hard. In the East, we've now announced 7 high ground communities that, once completed, will provide homes to at least 500 Kentucky families. Again, the generosity of donors to the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund is helping to make these projects possible. The fund raised over $13.2 million to help survivors with immediate and long-term needs. Over $3.2 million of that is committed to building homes for flood survivors in these high ground communities. The 7 high ground sites are in various stages of preparation for building. To be eligible for federal funding, we have to go through a pretty significant environmental permitting process that takes time. We can't even build an access road into it before that permitting is approved without sacrificing any of those federal dollars for that individual site. That's about $300 million that we simply have to build those homes. And so it's really at the point that the permitting gets approved that we can move forwards and significantly. The good news is that some of those are complete, and the infrastructure work has begun at 2 sites, the cottages at Thompson Branch, where I believe we will dedicate our first home before the end of the year, as well as Skyview, that has some significant infrastructure work that's going into it. But boy, once there, just outside of Hazard, it's gonna, I think we have 100+ homes just in the area that we have secured, with a lot more acreage in the same area. The fund is also committed an additional $3.6 million to rebuild individual homes, not on the high ground, but on areas that are outside the floodplain where we know we can build or repair. We're providing funds for significant home repair with Nonprofit Partners Foundation for Appalachian Kentucky, Housing Development Alliance, and Homes, Inc. To date, that part of the fund has provided over $1 million for 14 homes, including 1 home in Breathitt, 1 home in Martin, 1 home in Owsley County, 2 in Knott, 3 in Perry, and 6 in Letcher County. And I must mention the incredible work that is being done by the Coalition of Nonprofit Builders. They're appropriately named Housing Can't Wait. The Housing Can't Wait partners have already built 34 homes and provided repairs to over 218 homes that are now habitable for the survivors. They have 123 homes and 120 rehab homes in the pipeline. They have also received funding from multiple sources, including the Kentucky Rural Trust Fund and the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund. We are proud to support their work. To our Western and Eastern Kentucky families, Lieutenant Governor and I aren't going anywhere. You're going to see us week after week, new home after new home. We're going to get this job done over the coming years. All right, Winter Weather Awareness Week. Historically, Kentucky has experienced extreme winter weather, including the Arctic weather and polar plunges we saw this past winter. If anyone needs any more reason to be weather aware after the last several years, just remember on Christmas Eve last year how incredibly cold it was, and the few days before, how it was dangerous to travel, how we reached negative temperatures most of us thought did not or could not happen in Kentucky. So today, I signed a proclamation declaring December 2nd through 9th as 2023 Winter Weather Awareness Week. We have overcome unimaginable weather events in the Commonwealth, and we've lost far too many people through them. But my hope and what I've seen is people becoming more and more and more weather aware. And even when we faced cold, the likes of which I had never seen, that could have easily taken the lives of dozens of Kentuckians, we have responded by looking out after each other and by doing what it takes to protect ourselves and our families. And we need to be prepared for whatever weather comes our way, be it snowfall, ice storms, freezing rain, tornadoes, flooding, or extreme cold. I signed this proclamation to emphasize the importance of educating our people about the risks associated with winter weather and to show that Team Kentucky is dedicated to the safety of every single Kentucky citizen or anybody living within our borders. The next week is an excellent opportunity for communities to prepare and educate the public about winter weather risks. Some ways you can do that are first, preparing your home for winter, like insulating pipes, using space heaters safely, and making sure your carbon monoxide detector is working, and making sure you have enough supplies in case you have to stay home for several days without power. Remember, in most cold weather events, we lose more people from having a generator too close to the home or by carbon monoxide poisoning that gets in the home than we do from the actual weather itself. This is an important message to continue to spread, and that carbon monoxide detector could be the difference between life and death, because you don't know that you're being exposed to carbon monoxide oftentimes until it's too late. You need to create an emergency supply kit for your car. Remember, in the polar plunge last year on I-71, we had a couple of accidents over about a 2-day period with tractor trailers. That creates really long backups. Those that had this emergency kit were in better shape. Remember, we had our National Guard going up and down the road, helping people out. We didn't have any even serious injuries through it. But in your supply kit, put jumper cables, sand, a flashlight, warm clothes, blankets, water, and non-perishable snacks. And remember, when you're going out in winter weather, you need a full tank of gas. Ensure that emergency contact numbers are readily available. They should be in your car. But for more information and tips, visit ready.gov/winter-weather. We are going to have more of these events. It's just what we're seeing across the country and across the world. So let's adapt. Let's be prepared. Let's make sure you have this kit and the things you need in your home. By taking these actions, we can not only protect ourselves and our families, but in the event that there's somebody that hasn't taken those steps, we can show the generosity, love, and empathy by reaching out to them, whether it's bringing them in our homes or in our car if theirs isn't prepared, to make sure that in any of these events that everybody is safe. All right, on Saturday, December 9th, Brittany and I will be joining the Frankfurt community for one of my favorite things we do, the annual Christmas parade and state Christmas tree lighting, and I hope we see you there too. There'll be local food trucks, games, and a lot of other fun activities starting at 6 p.m. because it gets dark really fast now on the Capitol South lawn. That's between the Capitol and the Annex. It's become a wonderful space for these events. After the parade, we will light the state Christmas tree around 8 p.m. And of course, Santa will be in attendance. Looking forward to seeing all the kids that come out. In this giving season, Brittany is seeking unwrapped stuffed animals and journals to donate to Zero V, the statewide coalition of domestic violence shelters. All donations will directly help them provide shelter and support to survivors and their children. We're working through our employee open house we do every year, through this Christmas parade and tree lighting, as well as the inaugural worship service, to try to bring in these donations to Zero V. So that child who may have had to flee in the middle of the night, leaving everything behind, has that stuffed animal, that toy, those things ready for her or him when they reach a place of safety. We hope to see as many of you there. With the holiday season approaching, I want to encourage Kentuckians to consider shopping local and supporting small business. Our main streets are filled with local businesses that make our communities unique and can provide a unique gift for those you love in this Christmas and holiday season. The Kentucky Main Street program recently launched the Peppermint Trail, encouraging us to support our small towns, local businesses, and artisans during the holiday season. By supporting small businesses, your dollars stay in that community. It helps your neighbors. It helps your local economy. When you can shop local, you should. To find out more about the Peppermint Trail, visit heritage.ky.gov. Additionally, the Kentucky Arts Council has launched a one-stop shop webpage featuring gift ideas based on Kentucky artists and businesses. From performing artists and culinary delights to original stories from Kentucky writers, museum memberships, one-of-a-kind crafts from local artisans, and more, there's something for everyone. For holiday inspiration, please visit kentuckytourism.com/holidays. Finally, an update on the CSX train derailment. It was the day before Thanksgiving that I had to declare a state of emergency following a CSX train derailment in Rockcastle County. This allowed the state to activate resources beyond the county, including Kentucky Emergency Management and the Energy and Environment Cabinet's emergency response team that did the air monitoring so that we would know when things were safe. They were joined by local and county firefighters and emergency responders, a CSX hazmat team, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Region 4 Emergency Response, and the R.J. Corman Railroad Group, and multiple environmental consultants. 5 of the 16 rail cars that came off the tracks were carrying molten sulfur, and at least one was breached, causing a fire that burned until Thursday. Rockcastle County Judge Executive Hal Holbrook Jr. declared a state of emergency for the county and encouraged those living in the town of Livingston to evacuate. Thankfully, it was temporary. By Thanksgiving evening, residents were able to return to their homes. I want to compliment local officials for the job that they did, really looking out for their citizens, fully on top of the response. It was a one big team response. But the local officials in the area, mayor, county judge, all their local firefighters and the rest, you could tell that they had taken their training seriously by how they responded, and then the efforts that were made through the Red Cross and then a local hotel paid by CSX to get anyone who did evacuate immediately in lodging. Evacuation of the derailment site has now been completed and the track repair is underway. Recovered rail cars will be cleaned and removed. Air monitoring will continue during the phase of cleanup, and precautionary surface water quality monitoring is being performed by CSX environmental consultants. I want to thank everyone who was a part of this response, something that could have lasted much longer. Yes, ended up displacing people, but by a little less than 24 hours from beginning to end. So grateful for the men and the women who showed up, who gave a large part of their Thanksgiving day to make sure that things were safe for everyone else. That's why this week, these heroes are our Team Kentucky All-Stars. I want to thank each of these incredible folks for their work. The Kentucky Emergency Management Group that was down there, CSX and their workers who responded, all of our first responders, including the Livingston Fire and Police Departments and volunteers and departments from across the state that traveled and helped. I want to thank Judge Executive Holbrook. I want to thank the Livingston Mayor, Rockcastle Public Schools, who are, of course, there ready to help, Pine Hills Church, local restaurants who helped donate food, and local residents who offered up their land to allow all these folks to work. There's so many more that could be named, but for a train derailment, which we see across the country when they happen, can take a significant period of time. This response was quick, and the displacement was thankfully temporary and short. So thanks again to these all-stars. All right, with that, we have 3 journalists here with us in studio and 1 on the line. We'll start where we always start, with Tom Latek.
All right, thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Looking for an update on the status of the remodeling work, renovation work being done on this building here. The scaffolding's been around for, 2 years now? And then I guess when that's done, then it's going to go to the inside, and everyone who's inside is going to be moved out while that period while that work is underway. There are about a half dozen news agencies, including mine, that rent space there. Are you going to find a place for us to go?
Yeah, we're working through all of the challenges that come with the massive renovation that's currently proposed and has at least been partially funded in past budgets of this state capitol building. It is in significant disrepair and needs major work. However, government still has to operate and continue. Therefore, we're looking at some potential changes to what was the original schedule that would have had everybody out at the end of this session and out for several years. That schedule will be modified. If we currently followed that schedule, there would be no place for a special session if necessary, and with some significant economic development that's going on right now, with the weather disasters we faced and with other unforeseen potentialities, we have to at least make sure that we have the ability in this building to host a special session until the temporary facilities are completed, which is going to happen on the parking lot, which will then host the House and in the Senate. So we'll be looking at a revised timeline to put out that will have to push back the start of significant construction. I will tell you, I'm also watching a couple other things, like inflation is going down right now. I want to make sure that when we fully bid this out, that we do it in the most cost-effective way. Certainly the recommendation has been one big thing all at once. And while that is still the current plan, I think it is wise for us to consider and make a number of potential plans that could create various cost savings. The dome is on track. It was always going to be a very significant process. So what had to happen was scaffolding that allowed workers to safely remove the tiles. The tiles, like everything else, are historic, and so each tile is sent off to make a cast of a new tile that goes back on the Capitol. So my understanding is that the tiles are now off, the new tiles are being built, and then those tiles will be replaced on the Capitol dome. So that's a little in the weeds, but I'm a little in the weeds when it comes to this Capitol reconstruction. But I'd say that it's going to be at least a little bit fluid with the amount of work that's being proposed to be done all at once and a huge price tag that is on it. Carolina.
The United Auto Workers Union announced campaigns to unionize more plants across the country, and the union president said that one of their strongest campaigns is for the Georgetown Toyota plant. What are your thoughts on this effort, and are you supportive of it?
Well, I am a pro-union governor here in Kentucky. I'm grateful for UAW at what they've done to ensure that so many Kentucky families can put food on the table, that have better benefits and better wages. Toyota is also a very important employer here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and they've recently made some really significant commitments. This will ultimately be decided if it reaches a vote by the workers within the facility, and they ought to have the right to make that decision. That's how all of these go. I do want to compliment Toyota for having a very attractive wage and benefit package, but certainly know that the UAW is out there committed to their members, and their one goal is to try to create a better life for our auto workers. Tessa.
Good afternoon, Governor. With the Tyler Childers announcement today, we've seen that you cultivated relationships with Jack Harlow. We've seen you with Tyler Childers before. Can you talk a little bit about why you developed these relationships and the benefit of them?
I've had opportunity or blessing to get to know a lot of talented Kentuckians, and that's how I approach it. Proud of a guy like Jack Harlow that at 24, not only is this mega star, but moved back here to Kentucky, and that's a pretty special thing and a pretty special story that talks about a really special place. We've developed a good friendship, but the thing I love about him as a public figure is how proud he is of his home state and his hometown, and how much that helps us in a lot of ways. Tyler Childers, I got to know when he played the Appalachian Regional Commission's concert, and you could tell how important home and place is to him. With him particular, it's in Eastern Kentucky. And with him up for a Grammy this year, what a great story it says about Kentucky and Kentuckians and the talent that we have here. And Tyler's music, like Jack's, is so unique. And I think that's a pretty special thing for this state. But what we're seeing right now is, whether it is in entertainment or in other areas, so many Kentuckians not only succeeding, but really proud of being a Kentuckian. And I think that's really important as we are rewriting our history and we're writing a new future. When we're becoming an economic powerhouse, it's exciting to see these really successful people step up and talk about how much they love Kentucky. This is a special place to be and to live. And as all these jobs come to Kentucky, these are ambassadors whose music and stories are going to help recruit more people who want to come and who want to live here. I can't mention Tyler, though, without mentioning his wife, also a very successful artist, and their work that they do in Eastern Kentucky, and their foundation is pretty special. Got a chance to meet and know her and to hear about their little one, which is pretty neat, too. All right, virtually, we got Gil McClanahan with our last question coming out of Huntington, West Virginia.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Governor. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I wanted to ask you. Good. I wanted to ask you about the General Assembly session that's coming up in about a month. The Republican Senate leadership is in Pikeville for their retreat. I interviewed two of the senators, and I asked them about your relationship with the General Assembly, generally speaking, and they said that it's virtually non-existent. The one senator I talked with said he had a great relationship with your dad, it doesn't have one with you. I know you've signed. You told me when we talked before the election, bipartisan bills, but they said you did little, if any, work on those when possible. What's your response to that? I mean, do you see yourself needing to have a more improved relationship with the General Assembly?
Well, I'm encouraged by the early talks that we've had, the meetings that we are setting up. I'm encouraged both that we can continue a good relationship and encouraged on some issues that it looks like people are open to talking about and steps that this Commonwealth desperately needs to take. Listen, campaigns are hard to come off of, and that's still a lot of what you're hearing. I mean, on sports betting, we were talking to the sponsor, every day, every other day. Medical marijuana, and so many others. When we banned gray games, I believe we called the legislators into our office for what needed to be done there, that we started that with leadership, though they had pushed in the last session. So listen, I don't want to get in the back and forth about how we describe the relationship. Let's put it this way. We gotten a whole lot done, right? And whether that's me being out in front running with them, or me being on the side, or me being quiet in the back, it has worked in a lot of really important ways. But I'm encouraged about what's coming. We've had some outreach, both from legislative research and outreach from our side that appears very positive at the moment. I think we're going to be meeting with leadership of each side, certainly in the coming month before the session, and then already setting up a number of meetings on the budget, especially with the Senate. So, I don't know, because of politics and partisanship, that if you ask, you will ever get a response of, oh, we work great together. I'm just not sure our world is there right now. The partisanship is so severe, it seems like you're not supposed to say a nice thing about the other side, even if you've worked together and done some good things. I'm beyond all that. I want to be the adult in the room. I'm not going to say negative things about them, because however the relationship has been, listen, we got medical marijuana and sports betting passed that people said would never pass while I was governor. Apparently the relationship was good enough to get them passed. We got a good budget passed the last time. We had, I think, 4 one-hour meetings with the Senate on trying to craft a portion of that budget. So, again, Gil, there's the talk, there's the reality, but in the end, there's a future that I think is going to be really positive. I hope this session, either with the General Assembly or the relationship here, doesn't devolve into some of the things that sometimes you see, and that we focus on simply moving Kentucky forward, not to the right or to the left. So I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Thanks to everybody who gave me most of the day off yesterday for my birthday. Feeling 46 doesn't feel any different than feeling 45, but ask me tomorrow. I'm only one day into it. Thank you all. We'll see you back next week for the Team Kentucky update.